Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Tens of thousands of people have been evacuated and hundreds of homes have been destroyed as wildfires spread through the US state of Colorado. The fast-moving fires are burning in Boulder County north of Denver, and officials say deaths are likely. Hundreds of homes and buildings have been destroyed and at least half a dozen people have been injured. Video taken from a police patrol vehicle shows plumes of smoke and violent winds kicking up debris. According to police, thick smoke is reducing visibility and hindering rescue efforts. Meanwhile, a passenger flying out of Denver captured footage of the glowing wildfires as his plane passed over the nearby town of Superior.
Ensure your device is in the airplane.
It's thought some of the fires were sparked when power lines were toppled by strong winds. A state of emergency has been declared by the governor.
Gusts of 100, 110 miles an hour can and have moved this fire down a football field in a matter of seconds. Very little time to get out, very little time to even get the most important parts of your life. And yes, it'll be a difficult process.
In his first New Year's address, Germany's new chancellor said he wants to use its presidency of the G7 nations to develop it into a club that is pioneering green growth and a socially just world.
Mitbürgerinnen und Mitbürger.
Olaf Scholz said Germany will push for a climate-neutral way of doing business and a fair world. In his previous roles as Vice-Chancellor and Finance Minister, Scholz suggested that the European Union should team up with countries like the United States, Canada and Japan to create a climate club in which members agree joint rules and common standards on how to reduce carbon emissions. Some residents under lockdown in the Chinese city of Xi'an say they do not have enough food, even as officials insist there are adequate supplies. More than 13 million were ordered to stay at home last week as authorities sought to battle a COVID outbreak. But compared to other lockdowns globally, locals cannot go out even for essential reasons like buying food. The government is delivering supplies, but many on social media say they are yet to receive them and are struggling. The lockdown in the northern city is in its 9th day. South Africa has lifted a midnight to 4 a.m. curfew on people's movement with immediate effect, believing the country has passed the peak of its 4th COVID-19 wave.
That according to the experts, Omicron has reached the peak.
Mondli Gungungbele said the country made the changes based on the trajectory of the pandemic, levels of vaccination in the country, and available capacity in the health sector. Data from the Department of Health showed an almost 30% decrease in the number of new cases detected in the week ending December the 25th. Meanwhile, members of the public have queued for a second day to pay their respects to Archbishop Desmond Tutu ahead of his funeral tomorrow. A cathedral marching band played as people waited for his coffin to arrive. Tutu, who requested the cheapest coffin, said he did not want any lavish funeral expense. The ceremony will take place on New Year's Day. The Central Committee of Sudanese doctors say 4 protesters have been shot dead by security forces, at least 3 of them in Khartoum's twin city, Omdurman. Security forces fired tear gas and stun grenades at protesters marching towards the presidential palace in Khartoum, as tens of thousands of people demonstrated nationwide against military rule. The protests are the 11th round of major demonstrations since a coup which saw Abdallah Hamdok removed and then reinstated as Prime Minister. The outgoing New York City Mayor, Bill de Blasio, has held his final news conference.
Thank you, everybody.
De Blasio can point to a list of progressive wins under his leadership, including universal pre-kindergarten, the end of the policing practice known as stop and frisk, and paid sick leave. But there have been scandals too, with a federal criminal investigation finding the mayor or his associates accepted contributions from donors seeking official favours. And finally, countries around the world have been celebrating the start of a new year. People in New Zealand were amongst the first in the world to celebrate the arrival of 2022 with a light show in Auckland. The show featured 90,000 LED lights illuminating over Auckland's 328-metre-tall Sky Tower. Meanwhile, in Australia, the new year was welcomed with a fireworks display at Sydney's famous Harbour Bridge. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.